Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Wait just a couple more minutes to see if anybody else pops on. So while we're waiting, how far is everybody into their real estate career?
1 month for me.
And what office are you out of?
Eugene Springfield?
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
are you learning a lot? Are you enjoying what you're learning?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, some of these classes have been great. I'm a little slow on the uptake of a lot of the tech stuff. So I'm kind of wading through that, but everybody is very helpful. As long as I ask for help, I get help.
And that's it.
And yeah. So
Yeah.
and
Well,
I've
that's
begun doing open houses, and I'm very comfortable doing that. So that was good, but yeah, I like Keller Williams. I'm getting up to speed. I was kind of told I was joining a cult when I when I chose Keller Williams, and maybe that's true,
well,
maybe it's, but
if you're going to
I'm
join a
enjoying it.
cult,
Yeah,
join one where you can make money
exactly.
legally and above board.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So my name is Laura Knight. I jumped over to Keller Williams, gosh, the beginning of 2019. I left one agency and came over and never looked back. I love it. I love this cult. No. And I love the fact that there's education everywhere and people are helpful. And as you were saying, Joseph, if you just have to ask, you know, and someone's there to help you. So I love that. I am in Klamath Falls, way down south from many people, but love it here. I was originally from Las Vegas, but I've been here for 20 years and love it. Just love everything about it.
Culture shock.
So, how would I pronounce your name? Xenia?
Senior.
Yeah. So, how long have you been a realtor now?
About 5 months.
Okay. And are you absorbing and are you filled with questions for today?
Yeah, I'm always full of questions. I don't know if everybody wants to hear them, but yes.
Of course we do. So, and how I like to run these classes is very interactive. And we're going to go over things, but if you have questions, just ask. Let me finish my statement though, because I can squirrel very easily. Yeah, in this way, everyone can take notes. Do you have your participant guide so you can take notes on there to reference them later?
I have my book on chapter 19.
Whoop, yay.
So, yep.
So what were you saying, Mara?
Not everyone has received a book yet. We have more on order, so I will email them out to everyone who might not have it yet.
Okay, super duper. All right, so shall we get started?
Yes, go for it. I've got your ding dong sound on if anyone comes in a few minutes late, but otherwise you are good to go.
All righty, let's make this happen. Let's all make $1 million this year.
Heck yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. So what you've been covering is offers and negotiations. So now we're going to cover what happens when you get under contract. And timelines are everything because you have to abide by those timelines to have the easiest, most successful transaction possible. So has anyone bought or sold a house personally or just vicariously through a friend?
Yes.
And were you buying or selling?
I have bought one in Bend and one in Central Point and one in Eagle Point, and then
Okay.
now one in Roseburg.
Oh, then here, you take over. You teach the class. No.
No. I just learned what not to do.
Exactly. That kind of helps put you on the right track. But timelines, as you know, are very important. So we're going to cover your timelines. We're going to go over risk mitigation. So basically, if you get everything set up and do it right, the chances of, having issues later on is very important. And do you guys have accountability partners or anybody that you're working with right now?
Mara.
Well, that's the one. She's the best. So let me get my I have to remember to do several things at once. And, usually I'm pretty good at it. So what we're going to cover is how to win your buyer, how to win the seller, how to work with your buyers and sellers, how to make and receive offers, negotiate the offer. And now we're getting to the close. And from there, plan your future. So
Sounds
with
good.
time, yay. So with timelines, again, going here, we're going to do best practices, risk avoidance, referrals and reviews, how you can expand your business through referrals and getting reviews. And then post-close follow-up. The best way to get business is to reach out to the business you've already had, because everybody knows somebody. And then we're going to review everything, and we're going to go for our ahas. Now, an aha isn't just, ooh, aha. It's agents helping agents. So when you have experiences, it's nice to share those experiences with other people that might turn a light on for them. And then if I don't talk too much, then we'll get to the daily success system. So real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. So on our timelines, let me get up to speed here with my slides. So when you have a lot of people work together to make closings happen, you're the realtor. So you and your and the other realtor, whatever side you're on, are conductors, and they coordinate all the people and tasks that occur between the contract and the closing. It's likely also to be a time of high stress for your client. A lot of hand holding, a lot of, picking people up. So your relationship and communication with your client is just as important as your relationships and communication with all the other parties that make the deal happen. There's a reason that communication is one of our WI4C 2 T's ES. And are you guys familiar with that?
I think they brought it up yesterday a little bit.
And you can always find that in your command. You can just put, and it's also in the participant guide, what that stands for. But we're always going for a win-win, having integrity. Customers listen to what they need, communication, creativity, be creative, look outside the box to make things happen. Your teamwork, even if maybe it isn't the nicest set of circumstances with the people that you're dealing with, rise above and find a way to make it work. And trust, that's comes in with, if you're going to say you're going to do it, do it. And equity. And then we also have success, which we all want success. Even sometimes things they don't come to a close, but it doesn't mean that you've necessarily lost your client or the deal. Sometimes stuff happens. So don't lose your minds over if there's big hiccups. Easy for me to say as I sit here, but they happen. And when you're in negotiations, you try to keep that contract going, but if it has something to do with lending, sometimes it might take a little bit. You haven't lost the buyer. And if you have the seller, you've gone that far. So you already have a lot of the stuff already taken care of. So next time you go under contract with that seller, it should go a lot quicker. But things happen. So. So again, just kind of going over this. Do you guys have a contract that you've been using already? So if not, we'll just make stuff up as we go. Okay, so when you have a contract acceptance, you have an inspection period. So it's very important once you go under contract. And if I have the listing, I let the buyer pick the inspector in most cases. And then if they're getting a whole home and a pest and dry rot, it's like, you tell me who you've chosen and then we'll go with it. Mostly so, and that has to do with risk mitigation. In case an inspector misses things, which they do, they're human. It's stuff happens, but I don't want to be on the other end of, oh, you chose that person because you knew they would overlook something. So that's why I just put it in the buyer's court. You tell me who you want to use and we'll go with it. And, you know, it's a good thing. Now, along here, we also have additional items that we need to go over. But the biggest one is the inspection period. So everybody that's in the class right now, in your offices, get a vendor list of what inspectors people like to use. And you may want to reach out to that inspector and say, hi, I'm Joseph. I'm with Keller Williams Springfield. And, you know, I'm getting my vendor list together. And, you know, I want to introduce myself and put you on my list or what have you. And that's another way to get yourself familiar in the real estate world and to build out your contacts in your command. You have ways in command where you can set up all of your vendors. You have your home inspectors, or you might have roofers, might have handymen or repair people. So anyway, so that's that. And so this is it. Who's involved in the transaction? You have obviously the other agent and your client. Who else can you guys think of? Shout out, don't be shy.
Escrow.
Right. And it's usually the listing agent that will open up escrow. And in Klamath, we have one title company. And so most people just assume that they'll use AmeriTitle. However, I have been doing business with First American out of Medford and on occasionally Ticor. It has to do with the Ticor for when we sell manufactureds in Park. Our title company can't do it. So we're obligated to go over the hill. And so I have a lot of success there, and you will figure it out. And you can also reach out to the title companies and make sure that they have your information. So whenever they do any type of classes or if they do a training, a 1-hour training on how to read a title report, it helps you out. And in some cases, you'll need a title attorney, not so much in Oregon, but I have dealt with attorneys, inspectors that we talked about. The lender, when you're the listing agent, once you go under contract or even before, you can call that lender and ask questions that are not going to give up the buyer's client, but you're asking in reference to what's best for your seller, you know, of what you want to make sure that they're in good standing with everything. A prequal sometimes will have things that the buyer needs to hit. So you can just review that pre-approval letter with that lender and make yourself known. And then if they don't touch base with you weekly, you can reach out to them and say, how are we doing? Has the appraisal been ordered? But usually we don't share any inspections or any of that with the lender, because those inspection reports belong to the buyer or the seller, and we can't give them away. You'll also make sure that with a buyer that they have talked to their insurance agent and they have their binder. Recently, somebody was under contract, was told the buyer to get their insurance. Once they got their insurance, it was so expensive, the deal fell through. So that's a big one. If it's a rental, you need to talk to the property managers. If there are tenants, you're dealing with tenants. Movers, if you know movers in your area, put them on your vendor. All these people you can get into your vendors list and put into your command. And then if you're marketing a property, feel free to email that property to these people. So they might know somebody. Whether they know you or not, it doesn't matter. So, you know, people are always saying, do you know what houses are for sale right here? Contractors. And it's a good idea to have several contractors in your pocket that you can call them and say, we need a bid on this. And they may not get the work, but sometimes when you're negotiating, you'll put out in lieu of repairs, but you need to know how much the repairs are going to cost. And you're also dealing with family members. There's a ton of funny memes on Facebook. They're not too far from the truth. So anyway, so that is everything there. So now that we have our buyer and sellers list, let's think a bit about when in the transaction these different people are involved. For example, the inspector is involved during the inspection period. That's kind of a given. So with all the people that I mentioned, have you guys had run-ins or thoughts about any of those? Emily, Alex, Sherry, anybody awake?
So sometimes the lender will send, like, they want paperwork, they want you to verify it. Like
With a buyer?
Yes, for a buyer. But I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be looking at, or what am I supposed to be verifying necessarily?
Well, with a lender, they will legally, they have to give the buyer at the very beginning disclosures, their closing disclosures of the estimated amount that the buyer is going to have to come up with for close and where those funds are coming from. So that's usually, and it's a pretty thick packet, and it's somewhat repetitive depending on the forms the lenders are using, but they will do that. You might get 2 or 3 packets throughout the transaction. And always tell your buyers, now is not the time to go shopping. If you don't want anything in your bank account to be a big red flag, no big, huge deposits. Let's say that you have a buyer that's short $3,000 for their down payment. Go through the title company. If a family member is going to give them $3,000, have that third party put it to the title company directly with a gift letter, and that the title companies have a letter that you can just have the person fill out, that this is a gift. It's not being expected to be returned. It's free and clear, Because if all of a sudden there's a big ton of money that hits that bank account, it'll be suspicious and raise a red flag with the lender when it goes to underwriting.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yep,
Kind of get you where you need to be?
a little bit, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, did you want to extrapolate on that a little more, or did?
Well, unfortunately I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I'm not sure. They wanted me to verify some information with the buyer, but I wasn't, I mean, this was when I first got my license and I really wasn't sure what I was doing. So
Yeah.
it all went through, so.
Woo, success. Okay, then we're moving on.
I just hope they don't come back at me 6 years from now or something, you know?
No, and like I did a remote online notary, and they saw me in the background, because it was like a Zoom closing, and they needed to verify who I was to make sure that I wasn't some person strong arming these sellers to sign their documents. It's like, no, I'm just the realtor. We're here, not there. So we're using my computer. So yeah, everybody has to be careful because there are some really good fraudsters out there. So, and this is it. When in doubt, pick up the phone and call somebody. And if it doesn't feel right, keep going until it feels right in your gut of, something doesn't add up. Usually there's a reason why. So, going down my checklist so I can stay on track because I always run over because I talk a lot. I'm in the right position here today, right?
Yes, good job.
So for the buyer timeline, we have an inspector. And another thing, well, you give your inspector list to your buyer. Then you make sure whatever the contract reads, in general, you put in the earnest money within 3 business days. Sometimes I put 5 if I know someone's mailing in a check, or maybe they haven't downloaded the app and they're not that fast about learning things. I give them a little bit of a break. As a listing agent, if they're supposed to have the earnest money in 5 days, by the 5th day, I get onto that buyer's agent and say, hey, Mr. Buyer Agent, I don't see where the earnest money has gotten in. And you got to stay on it, because if they don't get that in, essentially you're out of contract. And, people forget, stuff happens. So you just kind of stay on them a little bit. Once you get an inspector, then you inform the listing agent of when the inspection date and time is, and who is going to let the inspector in. Many times it's the listing agent, but it could be the buyer's agent. It's between the 2 agents to figure out who's going to do that. And if the seller lives in the house, the seller can stay there and stay out of the inspector's way so they can just get through and do their job. Now, with inspections, the inspector is going to ask you if you want to do a walkthrough at the end, or if your buyer wants to do a walkthrough. So you will do that. You'll schedule that at the time of the inspection that you schedule the inspection. When you do a walkthrough, it's at the very end. And then usually if there's 1 major issue or 5 major issues, the inspector will point it out for you. They'll walk you through and say, see this gutter, it's hanging and water's going behind the gutter system and it's going to rot out your fascia board, things like that. Or the breaker box looks great, but we have 2 knockouts and that's a shock hazard. So they'll point it out so you have a better idea, and you can, if you have an out of area buyer, you can do the walkthrough and take your notes. So when you explain it to the buyer, you have a better idea of what you're talking about. So then let's say in the report, there are 5 major things you want to have repaired. That is, you have to stay within that timeline of your inspection period. So if you have 10 business days for the inspection, any repairs that you want to have made, you need to get those done, or you need to write a buyer's repair addendum within those 10 business days. So if, let's say you can't get, let's say you have an inspection period of 10 business days, you can't get an inspector until day 9. Don't hope that day 10 you can get a buyer's repair addendum put together. Instead, ask for an extension you write an addendum and you put inspection period to be extended by 3 business days due to every inspector was out hunting deer or something. You don't have to do that. It's kind of a joke, but you can just write in due to inspector's timeline.
In that
And-
situation, is it okay if I ask a question? Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
In that situation, like it's day 9 and you're asking for an extension, and if they don't respond, then your period has expired. So do you, how do you just keep that inspection period from expiring whether or not they respond?
You need to get that's why when you first call an inspector and you only have 10 business days, if he can't get there by day 3 or 4, then you might want to call another inspector. Because if you're right up against that timeline and, you can call the listing agent and say, John, I can't find anybody else. And this is, he can't get out here until day 9 and we only have till day 10. I'm going to write an extension for inspections at this time. I've written inspection period extension dates because we couldn't find an inspector within the 10 business days that wasn't already booked out or out of town. We've got more inspectors in Klamath now, so whoop.
Thank you.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that the seller has to agree to it. So the minute that you see that you might need additional time, you start getting those conversations and get that addendum in. Okay, so next, once you go under contract, right after you go under, you can wait a couple of days. You've got the earnest money, call the lender and see if the appraiser has been ordered. And usually how that happens is they send, they don't get to pick an appraiser. There's a service where the lender says, this is the work, and then an appraiser will pick it up. And they say when they need it by, and that's it. So an appraiser will pick it up, and then the appraiser will call the listing agent to tell them when they will be out to do the inspection or the appraisal. And at that point, if I'm the listing agent, that's when I call the buyer's agent and say, look, John just called me. He's not going to be here till next week at 3 p.m. And so did somebody else come in? Down. Oh well. So yeah, communicate with the other side because they may not know that the lender has been assigned and already given a date of when they're going to be there. So once the appraisal comes in, then after that, if all goes well, then you'll have a walkthrough. You don't have to do a walkthrough before closing. A lot of people like to do that. Many times the seller, they're in rough condition because they didn't realize they had that much stuff after all. but you hold their hand through everything while you get there. So any questions on that?
I know you said this, but who orders the appraisal?
The lender.
Okay, and you just make
Yeah.
sure, once you're under contract, you call and you make sure they ordered it.
Yeah, you can ask after a few days, hey, have you ordered the appraisal? And especially if you're using out of area lenders, like the big national lenders that have no idea where any town in Oregon is, and you're going through 5 or 6 different desks, on those especially, you get on them and say, hey, I'm just checking. And with those types of companies, it's been my experience that I have to stay on them because I may not always get communication back. I can email them, I can call, and it takes a little bit. They don't give like weekly updates, or they don't tell you where they're at. So you have to do it because that's an integral part, especially if you're having like a 4-week closing period. It's, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Have you talked to the escrow company? Because that's another big thing. Any other questions? So communicate the deadlines, and this is what you do with your clients, buyers and sellers. You communicate with all the other parties, the lender, lists, recommended title companies, and when you're in a listing appointment, ask your seller if they have a title company they prefer, or will it be buyer's choice. So when you're in the land of many opportunities, then you get used to working. Let's say in Eugene, there's a title company on one side of town and the sellers are in Springfield and there's a title company that's closer. They are going to want to use the title company, usually the one that's closest. And then again, communicate your schedules with any of your vendors, and then also with your addendums, amendments, buyer's repair addendum, any of that. Be very cognizant of the time, and in your command system, you can actually set up your tasks to remind you when you log on that it's right there saying, bing, bing, did you talk to the lender? Have you reviewed the inspection report? Things of that nature.
Would you do like an Excel sheet and send it to everybody?
Come again?
Would you do like a Word or an Excel sheet and, with everything on there and the dates on it to everybody, or?
No, that you would use for you.
Okay.
Because you can send anything out. It doesn't mean that they're going to look at it. So texting and phone calls are the best. I love texting, and then if I need clarity, then I make a call. And then whenever there's a holiday, keep in mind that if like on 4th of July was a Friday, that means the week, the 30th through the 3rd, title company was very, very busy because people are trying to get all their stuff in before the timeline because title companies and banks are closed on holidays. So then the following week, people are playing catch up because now they have probably a lot of closings on the 7th. So just always let your clients know that holidays they delay things. One day off can delay something by 2 work days. Learn how to negotiate the inspection report and how you're communicating the information. When you're working with your clients, you have got to be the voice of reason and to not lose, take the emotion out, and you can still be serious but light about it. But don't be like Henny Penny running around like, oh my God, I can't believe yada, yada, yada. That's like, okay, so this is what they're saying. This is what we could ask for. And one of the most important things on a buyer repair addendum, when you're asking the seller to make repairs or to give up money, try to do it on things that anybody would ask for. If it is, any buyer coming in, if it's a major structural or functional thing, I've seen people write, oh gosh, 20 item repair addendums. And much of it was just small, tiny stuff like, caulk around the windows. Well, the buyer can do that. If they're also asking for, half of a roof to be put on, or each contract is different and you have to weigh it out, but you have to find out, would every buyer, if they looked at that report, want to have additional caulking put around the windows? If it is a major leak thing, then absolutely. But if it's just something minor that should be done sometime sooner rather than later, that's kind of a non-issue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then also with the title company, if you haven't gotten your title report in a few days, if it's over 5 days, talk to the title company and ask them where the title report is at, because that too is another timeline. The buyer has 5 days to review the title report. And if they don't like what's on that title report, or if it can't get remedied, they can terminate. So you don't want to be 2 weeks into contract and you've already paid for inspections and other things, and then find out, oh, we don't have a title report. And if there are any red flags, the buyer can back out and get their earnest money back. Okay, so always ask yourself, is this an act of communication or a document? To whom and from whom is the document going? What is the best pathway for communicating, sending the document to the responsible party? When I send an offer into somebody, I text them and I call them. Check your email. I just sent you an offer. I call. Hey, I just want to make sure you got my text and my email. There's an offer in your, your email. So, yeah, because people get busy or you're driving or whatever. So it's nice to do as much as you can to communicate without being a nag. And sometimes you just have to be a nag. It happens. What is the plan for follow-up after a document has been sent to the responsible party? Number one, make sure that they received it and stay within that timeline. And are there templates for this that I can use or create to save effort and streamline communication across transactions? There is in the OREF forms, there is a summary. You can do that. And where it summarizes the transaction or the offer and the closing date and all of the dates that you need in there. And you can also put that into your command. Any questions?
So you said we can make a timeline in command?
You can put it into your task, into
Okay,
your task section.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so you go under contract today, you can go into command in setting your tasks and write down your checklist of inspection, earnest money, inspection, title report, lender, things of that nature. Sorry, I'm not getting. going off, making sure no emergencies there, sorry. So did that answer that question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So we have just gone over this. So the inspector list, listing, all of this is the same for the buyer. So, yep, same thing. And who is involved in your transaction? So when you have the seller, you do most of your work up front, right? You prepare your seller, you let them know what's, you know, a basic idea of the timeline of how it's going to work when they go under contract. So sometimes if you go in for a listing and they, you know, you can walk through the house and let them know, hey, just be prepared. This this may be something on this may be something on your, I am so sorry, you guys. This might be something that will pop up on your inspection, so you might want to take care of it. If it's a little drip underneath the faucet, better to get it taken care of ahead of time and then clean up the underneath the sink so it doesn't look like it's an active leak. Because the inspector will come in and say, looks like you've had an active leak. But if it's taken care of, the wood is dried out, it's not dry rot or anything. And sometimes just a little fresh paint or a cover to put over it works just as well. That's just one example. You're not hiding anything, but people want to walk in and know that everything's kind of like move-in ready, no issues. So, this is kind of an activity for everyone to do. So what people would the buyer, or I mean the seller, who are they going to interact with?
The listing agent.
That's a good start, especially if it's you, right?
Yes. But they too will do the title company and an inspector and appraiser, won't they?
Yeah. Well, they sometimes if it's a seller occupied home and if they're at home when the appraiser shows up, I just tell the seller just to stay out of the appraiser's way, and if they need a ladder or, you know, they need to know where the attic access is or the crawl space, just show them, you know, but other than that, just be pleasant. And again, if they need to do something ahead of time, or if they have, let's say they have an electrician friend or a plumbing friend, and should they need to have anything done, then it's nice to know that we can refer that, you know, let's say, let's say that, what would be that in the bathtub, one of the handles has a slow drip coming from the escutcheon. Then you can, the buyer comes in and says, we would like this repaired. And if the seller says yes, then you say, okay, when you respond to that repair addendum, you would put on there, a professional plumber will, you know, perform blah, blah, blah. Yeah, if they ask for a professional plumber. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes they carry on. So again, the timelines are pretty much the same for both sides. It's just one waits for the other. So once the inspection happens, the buyer writes the repair addendum, the seller then has to respond to that within a timeline as well. So, and in your listing presentation, I would write these bullet points down of, you know, to let your seller know this is how it works. You know, this is who your title company is. This is the your escrow officer. This is the title officer. This is the when we have an inspection. This is who, you know, this is how it works. This is what could happen, and just go down that way. You know, make yourself your sheet. So can you think of any other deadlines that's just brainstorming of other timelines that you might need to add to this list?
To earnest money.
Yep. What if there's repairs that need to be done? Then we need to know when to expect those repairs to be done. Okay, here's a curveball. Seller just got a new job, or no, the buyer just got a new job, and they still qualify, but it's going to delay closing for 2 weeks. That's something else that could happen. So when you have the seller, you would approach them saying, okay, so this did happen, and we're already 4 weeks into our transaction. So this 2 weeks gives you an extra 2 weeks to finish packing and cleaning and doing all of that. I'm teaching a class right now. Oh, thanks. Oh, sorry about that. So there are things that happen that will adjust your timelines. And I don't have to be the only one talking. You guys can just shout out anytime you want. It makes me less boring.
Take it as you're doing a good job.
Oh, you're being very kind. So again, with this graphic, once again, your timelines are so similar between, and you guys, you can see the slides, right?
Yes.
Okay. They're so similar. It's just sometimes with the seller, the buyer's timeline triggers how the seller timeline is going to go, but they work harmoniously. So also with your seller, since we have access to our MLS and we can go in there right after you go under contract, then you pend it in the MLS. And also remember, it's at the very beginning, if you can get all of your paperwork in and pend your listing and all of those things on day one. Worst case scenario, because sometimes contracts will run late into the evening, then get it done first thing in the morning. And in your command, under your opportunities, everything's laid out of the contracts and the documents that you need to be in compliance. So that's always a good one. So, oh, here's something we did not cover. What if you have a rural property that has well and septic? There's different timelines because it may, and you want to get your water test as soon as possible because depending on where you're at in the state, it can take up to 10 business days to get the water potability report back. And then with having a septic pump, if they're busy or if there's really bad weather, they may not be able to get out to pump the septic system. And when you read the addendum on that, the septic, on-site septic, and then also the domestic water, the well addendum, it says in there your timeline and what's standard. And then if you know you're going to need a little extra time because maybe you don't have the resources close by, or if it's peak season. And if it's your first contract with something like that, ask somebody in your office if they have a well person, a septic person, or persons, you know, different companies, and call them and say, hey, look, I'm writing an offer. What is your lead time on doing a septic pump and inspection? And you can also do same with the water. And with the water potability, you need to have somebody, a independent third party, collect the water and deliver it to the analytics. So that's something that you would need to let your seller know. Some sellers will go ahead and have their septic pumped right when they get listed. So it's already done, and they'll ask the person who's there pumping the septic system how it looks, if there's any concern, so the seller can get ahead of it. And you know, that's something that you'll deal with at that time.
So who does the, I mean, you said a third person, but who would get that third person to do the water?
It could be the home inspector. It could be if somebody's getting a well flow test, it could be that person. Much of the time here, we ask the home inspector if they could gather water. If it's on a Friday, it's difficult for an inspector to collect the water unless they're doing it first thing in the morning, because in Klamath, you have to have all your water samples in, I think, by 11, because that's when they ship everything out. And your water sample needs to be fresh. It can't sit in their fridge for 3 days until Monday to ship out. So, you know, these are things, and that's something that you can make yourself familiar with, is find out, you know, who the water, the well people, who the septic people are. If you're in an area or you think that you're going to start working with more rural properties. So, and then also get like to put in for your vendors, an exterminator or somebody who knows how to remediate mold. And then sometimes they, you know, people will ask for, you know, potholes to be, you know, filled in the driveway, things like that. Doesn't mean the seller has to do it. It depends on how it's priced. If it's priced tippy top of the market, then buyers are going to come in and expect a tippy top house. So, you know, two neighbors can have the same exact floor plan. One is totally decked out, and the other one, you know, the yard's a little overgrown. There's nothing special about it. Hasn't been painted in 10 years. So there's going to be a price difference. So keep that in mind whenever you go on your listing appointments or when you're out with your buyers. And if the buyers really like the house, try to get all that in. When you put down your offer price, you don't write it out into the offer, but you try to get ahead, because once you're under contract, it's hard to come back and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And that's something else with when you're listing. If you go to a house and you are offering all government loans, or even if it's a conventional loan, peeling paint is a big one, and they get called all the time. So if your seller has peeling paint, they may want to take care of that before it goes on market. And if they're like, oh, we'll just wait till it gets called out, then they can do that. But it's usually better to have that done ahead of time. So, and again, commands, you can log your timelines in your tasks, and then you can just look at your files and you will see what you need to do next, because it's everything that I know we love doing real estate, but the best part comes payday, and you don't get paid unless you have all your docs in there. So we've just already gone over all of that. Can you guys think of anything else or have any questions on your interaction points?
With the well and septic.
Say that again?
When there's a well and septic on the property, and are you saying that basically it triggers addenda that?
When you put your offer in, yes. When you put your
Okay.
offer in on a rural property and it will read in the MLS, then you put a septic addendum in, which usually you ask the seller to have it pumped and the buyer will pay for the inspection, because the inspection
Okay.
serves the buyer. The seller doesn't need to know because they've lived there and they're happy with it. And then with the well addendum, it is state required that when a seller is selling their property, it needs to provide a potability test. And different lenders, like the VA in certain parts of the state, may have stricter guidelines, but in Klamath, they just look for nitrites, coliforms, and arsenic. Those are what we're looking for whenever we get the potability test. And then
So
if
even
you,
if
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Who has to pay for that?
it's everything is negotiable except for the potability test. That is on the seller, because the seller is proving they have drinking water on the property. Now, let's say it comes back that it's high in arsenic. It doesn't mean the deal's done. You just need to negotiate what type of filtration system is going to take care of the arsenic.
So
And
even if it was an all cash deal,
I've had
then
cash
I
deals where the buyer was fine without a potability test because
Okay.
the well, it had no pump. There was no way that we could get the water to pump up.
But if it's financed, then this is pretty much a must. You must
Yeah.
have these tests and
Yeah.
septic too.
And
Okay. Thank
the lender doesn't see the reports. Occasionally the appraiser may, but it is the lender is the one giving the funds for the house. So they want to make, again, they don't ask for it, but that's why it's written in that the seller is required to get it done. And then it's up to the buyer and seller to negotiate it. You know, so maybe the buyer will say, if in lieu of seller offering buyer $500 to go towards water filtration system in lieu of having it done or something like that. Now, when you do that, it's outside of a repair addendum, because every single addendum you have goes to the lender. So you would write in there seller giving buyer or the seller paying $9,500 to cover some of buyer's closing costs or something to that extent. Does that make sense?
Okay. But
Yeah.
really that money is because of the situation with the water potability.
Right. A buyer can still buy a house, but you just need to know what your chemical compounds are in your drinking water. You know, people just need to be aware. And the same, oh, here's one that I forgot. Sorry. Disclosure. You have
So are you
property
saying-
disclosures.
So are you saying that that we can write that the money goes towards closing costs instead of the water?
Yeah.
Purification?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Or you can reduce the price,
okay.
you know, and that would be on a repair addendum. And then, because what if you have 3 different repair addendums and you negotiate, you do all that on the repair addendums. And then for an addendum to send to the lender and to the title company, you keep it clean and simple, because maybe there's, you know, so much on, maybe the roof needs help, and then the, you know, water needs a filtration system, or you know, the septic needs, maybe there needs to be a new septic uh tank put in. Here, an average to replace a septic tank, it's looking between 6,000 to 8,000, depending on where it's at and how big the septic tank is. So usually what a seller can do is have a new one installed, and depending on how good your relationship is with the excavation company, get them paid like 2 days later, you know, at closing or something like that. But that's a whole different negotiation. I'm getting off script, sorry. But that's the neat thing about these contracts, is there are so many ways to make things happen, and everything's legit and on board. And that's the communication point. So where you're doing all of your negotiations and back and forth, once you come to an agreement, then you put it on a nice clean sheet of paper, and then you disperse that to the lender and to the title company. Title company needs to know what the price is and if there's any concessions. And the lender needs to know, hey, you know, the buyer needs 10,000 in closing costs. And so we find a way to make that work, get it on an addendum, and send it to both of them, to both companies, you know, one to the lender, one to the title company. And let's see. Okay, here's a fun one. What happens if it's closing day and the movers haven't shown up? You roll up your sleeves. I had that happen. Where I had the seller, and she was a unique personality. And for a week, I'm like, are your movers coming? Are your movers coming? And the morning of, oh yeah, they say they were going to be here. They showed up 2 hours after the buyers came to town from out of state. So the best thing I could do, I had a cleaner on speed dial. So I called them so they could come in and speed clean. Oh, that's something, another vendor that you might want to have. Had them clean up the house to make it toddler safe, and then got takeout and a 6-pack of beer, and they got to picnic in their front yard while everything was moved out of the house. Good times. And so that is just testament that no matter how much you communicate, things happen. So you think on your feet and you find a way to get it to work. And so just always think of both sides, all of the moving parts, and all of those deadlines that go with those moving parts. Okay, so, the same thing over and over again. You know, just be very clear, because this is where the risk mitigation comes in, is just be very clear on your contracts and your timelines and explain them to your clients, because there will be times like, are your movers coming? That they will say yes, and the movers aren't there. So, you do your best. You can't assume that the other agent has it all handled. You can't assume that the other agent is going to do anything. You would like, you hope that they're going to perform. So sometimes, or they just get busy, or family stuff happens, life happens. So it's always okay to touch base and say, hey, how's this going? Or hey, how's that going? And do your best to communicate back as quickly as possible with the person on the other side. And that also helps your reputation within your area, where people go, oh, let's say there's 3 offers going in on a house, and you happen to be one of the agents writing an offer, and they have a good working relationship with you. They will take that into consideration of saying, hey, I've already closed 2 or 3 deals with this agent. They're on top of it, not worked with this agent, haven't worked with that agent. You know, things like that. So, yeah. It's just always be your best self and look for the win-win. Any questions? Bueller? No. Still a funny movie to this day.
It's all been real great information to have, and you've been very clear. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Alexander. Do you go by Alex or Alexander?
Alexander, I make it hard for people, you know.
Okay. So, speaking of risk mitigation, where are the potential areas of risk?
For us?
For losing the deal.
Oh.
So, the whole transaction, it's a living, breathing thing. So while you're working through, even though it's going, your people are the best people you've ever worked with, you're getting closer to the timeline, stress levels, even if it's smooth, a lot of stress levels get intense, because if it's the seller, they're meeting their timelines, they've also got to move, or they might be buying another property and they're dealing with that. And then with buyers, they're excited. And we all know when we get excited, we want things to happen quick. We want to get in. Sometimes they will have questions about things and they don't like it. It might be something that does with the lender, or not happy with the response on the repair addendums, anything like that. So that's whenever, again, you take your emotion out, give it a day, or give it a breath. If somebody calls you and they are just really barking up your tree, just very politely say, I've got somebody on, somebody's calling in. I'll give you a call back as soon as I'm done. And when you give people 10, 15, 20 minutes to kind of think things through a little more, sometimes, 2 hours works. Then you can go back, and during that time, you can devise a plan to explain things out and put their concerns at ease. And you don't have to take it if somebody is getting aggressive or name calling. And sometimes they will do that because they lose their mind. Not often, but it's happened once or twice. So you just stay calm, don't react, and get back to business. You get back to your timelines, you know, this is where we're at. And this, if a seller starts to pull back and say, well, I'm not happy and I'm just going to cancel the contract, that's when you remind them of that the buyer could actually sue them for a specific performance and make them follow through if they don't have a good reason as to why they want to terminate. So every time you write a document, every part of the transaction, you are wanting to be as transparent between you and your client as possible and let them know, hey, these are possible. You don't want to scare them. So just loosely, when the inspector comes through, gets a lot of people nervous when the appraisal comes through. And I say it in a light, soft way. And I tell people it's one of three things. It'll be a yes, a no, or a maybe, which means yes, they may call for repairs, or no, or maybe. Odds are it's probably maybe. And just because they ask for it doesn't mean we have to do it. And that's the same whether you have the buyer or the seller. I tell my buyers, the seller doesn't have to repair anything, but if they don't, we don't have to move forward. These are, you know, let me go in and negotiate this for you. So let's say, you know, you're working with a really good agent and you guys still can't come together. See if you have some time to think it over and then come back to the table the following day to keep that transaction going. Because when you're just like 10 days away from close, find a way to keep it moving. Find out, you know, what is holding up the seller, what is holding up the buyer, and get together with the other agent. I had one where there was a repair and neither side wanted to pay for the certification that needed to be done because it was a lender requirement. Seller said, well, I already gave up this much, and the buyer's like, but we're doing this much. So me and the other agent got together and we decided to split the fee and paid it out of our commissions. It wasn't large, but it was enough that kept both sides like, okay, because we were 5 days away from close. And it's like, let's just find a way to make it happen. And if it costs a little bit of money, that's okay. I'd rather have a lot versus a little.
Mm.
That's so potential risks of falling apart instead of my own personal drama. Late deposit, again, make sure that they get the deposit. All the stuff that happens after a home inspection. Okay, an appraisal comes in low. You have an opportunity to contact, to ask the appraiser for a revaluation, but you have to do it very quickly. And you can give them your comps. So you talk to the appraisal office, they'll give you the format, and then you do it. You drop everything and you do it to prove why you listed this house at this price, why you think that their appraisal is low. And as the listing side, you won't see the appraisal. You'll just hear that it's lower than it's below value. So you don't know if you're fighting for $2,000 or $20,000, but you just get on it. You pull your comps, you write out why this house is like those comps, and this is what you used. And in the appraisal, if they show you, they'll usually show you the subject properties they use to evaluate. Then that's when you can come in and say, no, this one is nothing like that one. And I know neighborhoods make a difference, but this is the exact build at this exact date and with similar neighborhoods. So that's why I use that one. And I've had a 50-50. I mean, I've had some where I tried and it didn't happen. And I've had others where I've tried and they gave me value. So, you know, that it's worth the effort for your clients. So now, right now for pricing homes, it's kind of hard because interest rates are still high in comparison to where they were when the prices went and like doubled overnight. So the best way to price a property competitively is when you pull your data, find out how many buyers compared to sellers. We're almost at a balanced market, but buyers are coming in saying, oh, it's a buyer's market. We're just, going to beat up these sellers. And it's like, wait, hold on. It's competitive now. So if you pull a CMA for your listing and there's 5 houses that are similar that you're using for comps and they're active, when you come in, you want to price competitively, which means even if your house is the tippy top, is the Taj Mahal out of all 5 homes, and you're going to be home number 6, be just a little under by 1,000 or 2,000 under the tippy top comp, because this will give you a competitive edge. Because if there's 3 buyers for 6 houses, you want those 3 buyers to see your house first. And you're not undermining your seller. And if the seller is like, well, wait, whoa, no, we worked hard to get our house like this, say, okay, well, we'll go with this price, and then we'll see how we do after 3 weeks and come back around. And another thing I do is I write that on the CMA, and then when I have them sign the listing docs, I write out the clause, my suggestion, what the seller wanted to do, and the plan moving forward. We'll readdress in 3 weeks. So let's say by week 2, they're like, how come we've only had 1 showing? Well, remember when I suggested this to be the price? That could be it. Say it in nice words. In my head, that's a whole different conversation. Fill in the blanks, right?
Do you have them sign the CMA with your suggestion on it?
Yes. Yeah. Just right down at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
Because usually I like to have them initial the CMA at the top corner, stating that they actually looked at it and they have it. But yeah, pricing accurately makes a big, big difference. And the market has changed. It has shifted a lot in different directions over the last few years. So just do your best and don't beat yourself up. Someone have a raised hand? When you first go in for your appointment, be it a listing or with a buyer, get an idea of their expectations. One of the first things I ask when I go on a listing appointment is, so where are you? And I'm like, let me guess. You've been on Realtor and Zillow. What do you think your house is worth? And most people kind of giggle and will tell me what they think it's worth. And then I just respond, well, we'll pull numbers and see. But usually I'll have my listing docs with me, and I'll have general numbers with me. Much of the time I'll go and I'll inspect the house first and bring to their attention, hey, did you see this over here? How's the water running? Can I see your electrical board? Because if I open up the electric panel and I see fuses, I'm like, oh, wow. What's your average? Can you plug in a heater and does it take the lights out? Those are things that you have to get used to doing, and you're not doing it in a judgmental way. You just let them know, I'm helping you get the best value for your property. Because sometimes find out who their insurance company is and what their insurance binder is like. For the buyer that's coming in, the insurance is going to be higher, but some companies don't want to insure, or they will have a very high premium for older homes that still have tubes in the box. For all you youngsters, it's a little tube that you screw into a socket. And it's not a breaker, it's not a switch. So, but yeah, and with your buyers, let them know, hey, it's not a buyer's market. Right now it's competitive. So if you see something you like, let's, you know, if it's at the tippy top or if it's a little below, you know, give them expectations. Not all sellers are going to want to drop their price 20,000 to meet where they're at. If you have comps, and I mean solid comps, that say, ooh, this property is way high, you know, when you put your offer in, put your comps in with the offer saying, and let that agent know, I'm not being disrespectful, but these are the comps that, you know, that we came up with. And I just put one under contract this morning, and we came in way low. I'm working with investors on this one, and the seller came back. We went back and forth 5 times between the seller and the buyer counter offers, and we came to a deal, which kind of met in the middle. So we're making it work. The seller's glad they're finally, you know, dumping this property, and the buyer's happy because, you know, he's got another project. So don't get frustrated if there's a back and forth or if there's lulls. There happened to be a fire, another forest fire about an hour outside of town, which burned through the fiber optics. So we didn't hear from the seller for a little bit, and come to find out they had no internet service because the fiber optic cable got a little singed. So, but yeah, communicate quickly and effectively about your issues. And if it's something that's sensitive and touchy, talk to your principal broker or reviewing broker, or, you know, if it has something to do with contractual language. But if it's just, how do I approach this? And you do it from a very balanced type of perspective, because again, we're wanting to do like a win-win, and you don't want to offend the other side. And if the other side offends your client, bring your client down. And it's like, it's okay. You know, it's a highly emotional thing. You're just buying or selling your most important asset, you know, outside your family. Unless it's that one sister you really don't like. No, just kidding. So any ahas, anything that you're drawing from all of this right now?
Yeah.
So we just did that. Did all of this. And you know, as much colorful language as I prefer to use, I do not do that around my clients. I do that when I'm on my very stubborn gelding who doesn't want to walk on. And then that's when the name calling begins. Anyway, enough about my life. So this is a Q&A, so everybody jump in at your leisure. Where is the deal at risk of falling apart?
No insurance.
Yep.
It's too expensive. Or with that being said, have you ever seen them turn a house down for having those tubes instead of the breaker?
No, we just lowered the price.
Okay.
Came to an agreement. I've had buyers that when we've opened up the electric box, and that's part of it. Whenever you go to show houses, find out where the electric box is. Open that panel up. You don't have to flip anything, but just open it up and get a good idea of what you're looking at. So where else could a deal fall apart?
Inspections.
Pardon?
Somebody,
Inspections and major repairs.
That's the biggest one. Yep. That's the biggest one right there.
the foundation is cracked all the way around the house.
Yeah, just push it over.
And then we had one like that. Oh, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it's kind of important, you know, without your foundation, where are you? You know, in the mud. Let's see, what if there is a red flag on the title report? That could do it. I've had red flags on title reports that, they didn't do, probate properly. The people, they were do-it-yourselfers, and something didn't get filed, and it took an extra couple of weeks to get it closed, and then the funds had to go into a trust account through an attorney, which cost them money, and they weren't too happy about it, but we did find a way to get it closed. I felt like after that transaction, I didn't have much backside to sit on, but I've had one where there were 8 people on title.
We,
So it took a while to get that one going, but the buyers had an option to terminate and get their earnest money, but instead they decided to wait it out until we got all the people, found them all, and got it taken care of. So earnest money, title report. What about seller property disclosures? What if in the very beginning the seller says, oh, by the way, we have 5 cracks in our foundation all the way around the perimeter? Then that's where you could lose a deal. And that's something that, I don't know, if the people are excavators or masons or whatever, maybe they can make it work. They're just going to bring the price down to accommodate that.
I think another way is somebody came in with cash offer or a higher offer.
If you're already under contract,
Oh, well, no, not if you're already.
Yeah,
on-
yeah. But this is something, since you brought that up, once you go under contract, you are allowed to take backup offers. Like, you know, I've written backup offers when I knew that we would probably find another house before the house that was already pending had gone through all of their stuff. But once you write a contract for somebody, they feel a little closer to you. You've already got their details, you've got everything set up in your computer. So for the next deal, you just switch a few things around and you're pretty close. And sometimes I get agents that will call me and say, hey, do you think your seller will do this? And I let them know to write it up and we'll find out. Because if they're serious, they're going to write it up. And
How does, oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
How does a bumpable work?
Bumpable.
And with that being
So
said-
what it is it depends on how the contract reads,
Mhm.
but it's active with contingency. So in the contracts, so when you read through the contracts, then it's written in the contract of what the seller owes the buyer if another offer comes in. So generally, they give 24, 48, 72 hours for the buyer to perform. And let's say the buyer is already in negotiations, they will speed it up. Much of the time, and I've done them, I've been on both sides. Most of the time, it doesn't come to fruition because somebody else comes in the meantime.
Okay, yeah, because I've seen one that's, I was gonna try to show to a client, but it's been bumpable for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, but you can still show it. I mean, if it's active with contingency, that contingency is a placeholder because they can't act because either the house isn't listed yet or it's listed with no offers on it. And, you know, before you take one as a listing agent, go and look at it online. If it's in your area, take a, drive by. What are the odds? I had one where the house was in Oklahoma. So I just got on the internet and checked it out. And it was a beautiful home. Most likely to sell had it not been around Christmas time. We were actually under contract, the buyers were in a bumpable position. I had the listing, and then somebody came along and said, bam, pre-approved with a better offer. We gave them 3 days to perform and they couldn't do it. So, had it closed 5 weeks later through the holidays. So that's something there. So insurance is a big one. Either they can't get insured because they're rural and there was a fire down the street last week, so they say no can do. And or I had one where the insurance premium was 10,000 annual.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, silly insurance companies. We're in Oregon, we're in Klamath Falls, we're not in LA. But yeah, those are much higher. Don't ask me how people do that, but so there's that. What if somebody loses their job? You could be right there at the closing table, and 2 days away, the day before somebody loses their job, the lender will do their last final sweep to make sure that the buyer is, everything is the same. That will pop up and they will say, nope, can't do it. No fault of the seller, and the buyer gets their earnest money back. Now, if they quit, that might be something else, but that's a whole different story. It's like you had one more day.
Mhm.
Just one more day. But so that's with communicating, putting your thinking caps on and finding a way to make it work. Sometimes you just can't. What if somebody unfortunately passes away? Freak accidents, stuff happens. That's a really hard one to come back. So, but always act in your client's best interest. I don't tell my clients what to do. Everybody runs their business the way they want it to be run. But just understand, if you tell your client that they should or they have to do something, when they don't, let's just take our commission rate. When people would say, oh, you have to pay us this much, there was kind of a big lawsuit about it. So yeah, you discuss options, you guide your clients through, you let them know your opinion on what you think is the best plan, but you're welcome to listen to, their ideas or their plan. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, you're the professional and we're relying on you. We are relying on your professional opinion. So make sure it's a good one. And again, the win-win, integrity, customers, commitment, communication, creativity. That's all that creativity is about your marketing. Okay, talk about this. What if you have a listing and it's been on market for 4 months and your seller just insists that you're not doing enough marketing when you've told them that you're 100,000 over market value? You have an option at that point saying, okay, well, I'm not going to spend any more money until we renegotiate the price, because you're just throwing good money after bad. These are things that might happen, but this is all the stuff that is negotiable. It is your business. You know what your compliance is. Just be a good person, and 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100, you're going to get to the end. You'll be successful. And with every contract that you write, every transaction you do, you learn something from that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Even the smartest, well-versed people, they're not well-versed in real estate. And another thing that sometimes you'll deal with is, oh, well, my sister's husband's brother did real estate 15 years ago and they said blah, blah, blah. Just let it roll off your back and say, oh, wow, what company? Act like you're interested, be polite about it, and say, wow, a lot's changed since then. Just find ways to bring it back to a positive of, because a lot of times it was like, I would want to say, well, how many houses has he sold this year? But you can't, it's not nice. You can think it, but find nice words to bring it back and always advocate for what's in your client's best interest. You know, and it isn't always easy. Most of it is great. It's very fulfilling. Nothing's greater than when that house gets sold and you see the delight with your sellers, that they've been able to, you know, cash out their equity and, you know, move to a different part of this nation. And for buyers, especially first-time home buyers, it's so exciting. Or let's say somebody's upgrading because they're expanding their family or they're bringing family in. It's a great feeling. People get happy. So through all of the highs and lows, there really is happiness at the end. Any ahas out of this?
Lots to think about.
I have a tendency to talk a lot and really I go off script. This is my script, sorry. But there's so much to cover. And I just think that just reading it off, that's just not my personality. I try to stay on topic.
It puts us all to sleep if you're reading it.
Yeah, put myself to sleep. Okay, so now we're gonna go into referrals. So, once you close out, remind your clients in a very kind way, or just say, hey, they're, Joseph, this was the best transaction ever. Thank you. I'm glad you're happy with that. And just remember, you can always refer me to, you know, coworkers, friends, blah, blah, blah. And then find a way to stay in touch with your clients, be it email, texts. I invite them to my open houses. I do open invitation on Facebook. You know, stop by. I'm not going to sell you a house, but let's catch up. You can do client appreciation events. Hey, I've got 10 extra tickets to the theater and we're going to go watch, you know, #1 top selling movie today or on Friday. Would you like to join us? You know, popcorn's on me, ticket and popcorn's on me, something like that. You can have, you know, burgers at the park, you know, big barbecue appreciation, or you can do small events. I have time for 3 ladies to go. We're all going to go for mani-pedis today. You know, something like that. So find what works for you, find how you relate, and it doesn't have to be spendy. It can be as simple as writing a thank you card or handwrite. Everything's automated, which is fantastic. It saves you time. But people that you've been one-on-one with, is just to write a card. Hey, how have you been? So with the BOLD class I took a few years back, one of the exercises was get in your phone and just text, you know, 10 people in the next 15 minutes. I did that. I'm like, hey, this is Laura. Haven't heard from you in a while. Just checking in. That's all it was. My phone rang back, just people checking in, and led into 2 more sales. So you guys, since you're in the Ignite program, I'm of the assumption that you're building out your database. So another fun way you can do that is to send emails or cards to everybody that you've worked with, or if you had kids go to school, or the people that would know you by name, or even if they don't, you just send them a letter or an email saying, hey, did you hear the news? I'm with Keller Williams. You know, let me know if you or anybody you know has someone that's looking at real estate. Or you can just, to your neighborhood, walk around saying, hey, did you know I'm a Keller Williams agent? Let me know if you have any questions about real estate. I'm happy to help. No, and a lot of people, oh, well, you know, such and such is my best friend and they're a realtor. Hey, that's all right. I'm not taking their business. I'm not asking you for your business. I'm just asking if you need any help. Because maybe somebody else will overhear the conversation or something. And there's ways that you can go about asking for referrals. when you go to the bank, you can always ask the bankers, hey, here's my card. I would love if you could give that to anybody who's looking to buy or sell a home. Especially if you go to the same bank with the same teller all the time. And bring really good joke material because they like that. Let's see. How can you guys think of ways to get referrals?
Well, I've been taking food from a little restaurant to doctor's offices today.
Love that.
And one of them was funny. By the time I got back to the restaurant, one of them had already called in to the restaurant and was talking to them.
That is wonderful.
So
Yeah, and when it comes to doing your transactions with the other agent, what if it's a really, really good agent and you think, wow, they're perfect for Keller Williams? That too, you can bring over to be a Keller agent to build out your pipeline, you know? So there's so many things that when you're not in it, that are outside of a transaction that you can do to build your business and to make a larger platform for Keller Williams as well. But you have all those vendors. So with lenders, like we have a lot of, when people come to me and they're ready to buy, I have a handful of lenders that I refer to. Reason why I refer these lenders is I know they have good programs. They treat my clients well, and they don't, like the appraisal process and things like that some lenders are a little more stringent because they're giving a better price, a better program for the buyer, but it could be harder for the seller. So go out there, meet those lenders, and find out which lenders are going to work for you. And then sometimes lenders will say, hey, I've worked with these 5 agents. These are their names and numbers. Pick one, or they'll go by personality types. If you want somebody that's really quiet and, by the book and like a machine, try this person. If you like somebody that's a little more outgoing or blah, 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 try this person. So also with, you can look at the home inspectors, at the septic and well people, basically anybody you do business with, that could be your next referral partner. Let's say you go on vacation. Okay, so you come down to Klamath and you stop into the office. You stop into our office here in Klamath Falls. You can always drop your card by and say, or a letter, hi, I'm Zinnia, and you're in Eugene?
Roseburg.
Roseburg. Then yeah, I'm in Roseburg. Anytime, if you have any clients that are looking in that area, please consider me. So yeah. And when my daughter went to U of O on 58, anytime I stopped into those places, I would tack my business card onto their bulletin board, or the person who would dispense my coffee or sandwich or whatever, anybody in the area, because we can sell anywhere in the state. It doesn't mean that I'm going to actually take that client on, but I can use that referral. Let's say the coffee shop people say, hey, Laura, did you remember? We've got somebody that is wanting to sell their cabin up here. Can you help? Oh, I have the perfect person that does cabins. Then I start looking through, oh my God, who do I know that sells cabins, right? And then I get a referral fee off of that. So it's other ways looking to build out your bottom line. So.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
I heard of a program and I signed up for it, but I can't find it in my email when they sent me an email. They work with Keller Williams agents. And what it is, it's a program that an agent can put, like, I'll pay somebody $50 if they can open this house for me for these clients or for this. Do you know what that's called?
No. And I'm usually pretty skeptical about anybody sending me anything promising things like that. But did you go to the company to legitimize the company?
Um, I've heard other agents talking about it.
Okay. Well, if it's something that they do or if they've used, then you can do that. Another thing, is after you've had your license for a while and have done a few sales, sometimes you can do broker price opinions, which is a nice little side hustle, depending on which company they pay differently. Some people will pay $45 for a drive-by BPO, which means you've looked at the house, it has a roof for, 4 exterior walls. And this, you take a handful of pictures from the outside and then you send it back to the bank and they usually have a format that you fill out. So I worked with a gal, she did a ton of those. I, on occasion, will do broker price opinions. Ugh, more coffee needed here in town. And I usually charge $175 to $225, depending on the location and the size of the property. And if they want something rushed, like the day after, then I double the price because I have to put everything else on hold to get it done. And that's with one of the local credit unions.
Okay.
And I did that when I first switched over from one brokerage to the other until I got my database up and running. And I still do them. And now I'm like, why do I still do these? But I know the people at the bank and they're also friendly and they're also kind that, it's like, okay.
What was the name of that?
A broker price opinion.
Broker price opinion. Thank you.
It's BPO. So
BPO.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. The one that they actually interview you to make sure that you are credible. And I just can't remember their name. And I was like,
Well, go back through your contacts or phone numbers and get the timeline on that, or you can just put like door opening service, or just go back through your emails of that timeline, and just it's going to be a little bit of a time suck for a bit there, but look through there and see what it is. Or you can just Google or use ChatGPT of companies that do that in your area.
that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, because we're so rural out here. Most people are like, nah, it's going to take more than that to roll me out of bed. So, okay, I guess I should get back to class. No. Why they put up with me, I don't know. Another thing you can do is ask your clients for reviews. And when you put your Keller site together, you can, even if it's not in real estate, you can still have people like with other jobs that you've had. I like Zinnia. She's very personable, things like that, just to build it out, just to start getting things done. And you're not doing anything shady. As long as they're not saying you sold me a house. But as far as saying I've worked with Zinnia, tell me I'm pronouncing your name properly. And
Really close.
and she was a delight to work with. Things like that. I know her from the medical field, or whatever
funny.
goes on.
I did work in a pharmacy.
Yeah. she's my pharmaceutical hookup. No.
She's my druggie.
Yeah, right. Gets me the good stuff. No, it's funny because I don't even take aspirin.
Yeah, that's probably why I got out of it.
Yeah, right. But if I do need to relax, a little ashwagandha goes a long way. So always look for repeat business. That's one way you can ask your clients. Find referral partners. You can call, and it's in Command as well. You can reach out up to Washington to different Keller offices and say, hi, this is Joseph Becker, and I am in Eugene, Springfield area. If you have anybody coming down, I'd be more than happy to, help them out, or I'd love to put you in my referral database. Then also you have client reviews. Again, the more you can get, you want to have a presence, and that helps. So anytime you're out and about in public, in every conversation, remind people you're a realtor. Funny thing, having a conversation with my sister a couple of days ago. She's in Las Vegas. That's my hometown. She was explaining her son's house that he just put an offer on, and the price that he was paying. And I said, just as a reminder, I am a realtor, so I understand how houses work. And she said, oh, well, I know, because she was talking to me as though I didn't know the whole process of purchasing a home. So yeah, that was pretty funny. So even at the close of the transaction, I hope you were satisfied with the service I provided. So if anybody happens to ask you, if you know a realtor, I would love for them to call me, something like that. And, just always, when you go out and about, go to different areas, talk to other realtors, look for the business, ask for the business. That was a hard one for me when I first came over to Keller, because I was used to being spoon-fed. So boy, what a difference. Yeah, I like this 100% better. So here we go with our unfair share. Let me get caught up on the script here. Wouldn't it be fun if you could just, read through the pages and then just color between the lines to make it all happy? That's in a different world. Okay, I think I've talked enough about that. Any ahas with my long-winded conversation?
Yeah.
Please tell me I've helped you with something today.
Broker price opinion, is it going to be looked up?
No, thanks for all the real world examples you gave from the contracts. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables.
Do you have any questions about the contracts or the timelines? Because I was actually here to teach you guys timelines. The best way, if ever you forget where you're at, look to your contract. And if you don't have it in your task list on command, you might want to do that. I am hence the white hair, very old school. So I do pen and paper, and I also have it in my phone, because one helps remind the other. So just find what works for you, and whatever is working for you, do it, and do it big. But timelines are everything, and think about risk. So before you go into conversations, kind of play it through in your head a little bit. If I tell my seller XYZ, they could act this way, which, and kind of have an answer for all of that without the emotion in it. And if because there's always going to be a rebuttal, have answers, because mostly what they're looking for are answers. And I'll tell my sellers when they get an offer, I don't want a decision right now, but these are your options. So just sleep on it. We'll come back to it tomorrow. We've got time. And that's a big one right there. Sleep on it. We got time. And then if there's times that you don't have the time, you go, hate to break it to you, but take 10, 15 minutes and get back to me, because we need to get this signed. We need to go, we need to make things happen, and say it in the nicest words that you can, but as firmly as possible. And anything else you guys want to talk about? And you do know, whenever you're out there marketing yourself, that the do not call list, you have to pay attention to that. Don't call any of those numbers. I just don't cold call. Never liked it. I'll do letters all day long, so find out what works for you. But if you do the cold call, definitely check up the do not call list. And other ways to keep yourself motivated and going, if, you know, until you get those contracts stacking up, is ask yourself, how many people have I talked to today? You know, you go back to those systems, try to talk to 10 people every day about real estate. I talk to so many people about real estate, they see me coming, they're like, oh God, don't let her talk about real estate. But I've come to learn that's all I know how to talk about. And that and horses. And yeah, just if you have the MREA, the models in there, it's fantastic. Now, have you guys explored your command system? Anyone? In there, when you go into the Connect, you will find where they have the playbooks in there. So you can download the playbooks, like on the MREA, that gives you exact instructions on the models, on the business models. And you can also find on YouTube the Marty Miller on how to use your command and how to build out your website and how to add like a landing page and your testimonials and things like that, reviews. And it's all right there. If you allow yourself so much time a day to do it, it's right there.
I'm on day 14 of his 66 days.
Isn't he fun?
Yes, he's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I started back whenever there was 3 applets, and it's outgrown me. I got busy and didn't get back to it. So now every once in a while I get stuck on something. I'm like, where's Marty at? So I can just pull up whatever video and get there. But what a great resource. But
Yeah.
the command system and the Connect system, there is so much in there that if you guys just explore it, play around with it, there is so much information. And that's why I left the last brokerage, is it didn't have those resources, whereas Keller Williams makes all of those resources available for you. Other companies might, but I don't even look at them. All I know is where I'm at now, things work. So if it ain't broke, don't go looking for anything else. But there is a lot there. Now, once again, I am not Tanya. My name is Laura Knight, and I am in Klamath Falls. I am always on Facebook, and you are welcome to reach out to me. And if you have questions, as long as it's not a principal broker question, but if it's just something rando or an opinion, I give my opinion out all the time.
So how do you spell Laura?
Laura.
Okay.
I spell with my right hand and sometimes my left.
Well, in pharmacy, I learned to ask people because you don't trust.
I know, I'm a smart aleck. My last name is Knight, Knight.
Any
Yeah,
relation
so-
to Phil Knight?
Well, we always joke, when Tabitha went to U of O, she'd say, well, Uncle Phil, you know, it's funny, but no relation. We're with the Vegas Knights, but when we would go to events and you would check something in and they would ask for your name and you put Knight, people acted differently. And I'm like, oh, that's so hysterical. So anyway.
Love it.
Yeah,
I use it to your advantage.
yeah, it's like, whatever. If somebody wants to open a door, I will walk through it. So, but Joseph, did you have any questions?
I don't think so. No, I was just looking through the playbooks on Connect,
Yeah.
like you said.
So
Yeah.
did you find this class helpful today
Yes, I did.
with all my
Yes.
meandering and
Yes, I
the
did.
distraction of my phone blowing up in the middle of the class? I apologize for. And Sherry, what about you?
Yes, you had some very good information. Thank you very much.
Were you able to get something out of the class in regard to your timelines?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because sometimes I question myself.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Alexander, what about you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I learned a lot. The BPO was a new one that I learned as well. And all that real world experience stuff was fantastic. And it was great. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Good. Yay. And let's see, what about Lane? Are you on the call, Lane?
Well, looks like he's flying.
Yeah, that's all right. And Brendan, what about you?
Yeah, I learned a lot this class. Thank you.
Well, was there anything specific, or was there something that wasn't covered that you might have a question about?
Uh, Not exactly.
How long have you been a realtor now?
Since January.
Yeah. So how's it going?
It's been good. Yeah, it's been
Yeah?
a little slow. But I'm working towards getting a bunch of clients together. I have 2 right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And what office do you work out of?
I work in the Eugene Springfield office.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So this way, if ever I drop into the office, I, at least have some names and faces. And is it Keen Song? Are you on the call? Anyway, so do you guys have
Oh,
any?
yes.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
oh
I
no,
just
you're
don't know
good.
how
Did you have
to- I
did you
just-
have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
I learned a lot today. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, you're so welcome. And again, you guys can always find me on Facebook and ask me questions if it has anything to do with contracts and the legalities that's outside of what I can do without getting spanked. But just opinions or directions, I'm very good with. And as always, if you have people coming down to Klamath Falls, call our office, call me. If you have just questions about Klamath Falls, call me. If you want to represent somebody, it's only a 3-hour drive.
Desert.
It's beautiful. You go through the woods and then you get to high desert. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks for spending your afternoon and putting up with me. But it's been a lot of fun. And again, any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out. And my phone number's on my Facebook. But it's also, if you guys want to take it down, 541-331-1729. And that's dial a realtor. I've got a question. Feel free to ask. Text is always best because in something like this, I may not immediately get all my callbacks, but I go to texts first.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Awesome, thank
so
you.
very, very much. You have a great afternoon and let me know when you guys get things under contract.
Thank
Awesome,
you,
will do.
Laura.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks and bye-bye.
Bye.